Realization. Lucia's eyes fluttered open, a splitting pain radiating from her temple. Each pulse of her headache seemed to reverberate through her entire body. The air around her felt heavy, the world a smear of shadows and muted colors. She blinked rapidly, willing her vision to clear, but the fog in her mind refused to lift. The sharp bite of coarse rope around her wrists anchored her to the moment. She tried to shift, but the bindings dug deeper into her skin. Panic surged in her chest, and her breaths grew short and frantic. Her movements were sluggish, her limbs weak. "Where?" she whispered hoarsely, her voice cracking. She swallowed hard, her throat dry and scratchy. What happened? Her gaze fell on the figure slumped beside her. Isabela. "Isa," she rasped, the sight of her friend spiking a fresh wave of fear. She wriggled closer, her movements hampered by the tight cords. "Isa, wake up!" Isabela didn't respond, her face pale and serene, as if in deep sleep. Lucia's heart thudded violently as she leaned closer, her eyes searching for a sign, a twitch, a breath, anything. Finally, the faint rise and fall of Isabela's chest registered in her vision. Relief flooded through her, leaving her momentarily breathless. She exhaled shakily, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly. "Thank God," she muttered. Lucia twisted her hands behind her back, testing the ropes. Her mind raced as she pieced together the fragments of memory from earlier that day. She and Isabela had walked through the vibrant streets of Miami, soaking in the sights and sounds. Then there was Javier, the charming stranger with the easy smile and the warm eyes. The drinks. Her stomach twisted as realization dawned. The champagne. That smug bastard had drugged them. She clenched her jaw, her teeth grinding together. Anger flared hot and sharp, overtaking the fear that had gripped her moments ago. How could she have been so foolish? How could she have let her guard down? The memory of his smooth voice and calculated charm stung like a fresh wound. "If I get out of this," she vowed under her breath, "I'll never let a man outsmart me again." Her thoughts were interrupted by the creak of the door. The sound made her freeze, her heart hammering against her ribs. She craned her neck, her muscles taut with tension. Javier stepped inside, his movements casual, almost leisurely. In his hands, he carried 2 glasses of water. He looked the same, tan skin, neatly groomed, the gold chain around his neck catching the dim light. But now his calm demeanor felt sinister, his presence suffocating. "Let us go," Lucia snapped, her voice sharp and filled with venom. She thrashed against her bonds, her body straining as she fought to free herself. "You can't do this to us." Javier didn't respond. He simply stood there, his dark eyes fixed on her with a calm, unflinching gaze. "Coward," she spat, her frustration boiling over. "What kind of man are you? You think this makes you powerful?" Her struggles grew weaker as exhaustion set in, her breaths coming in gasps. She slumped back, her wrists raw and burning from the friction of the ropes. Javier crouched down and placed the glasses on the floor in front of her. For a moment, he lingered, his gaze boring into hers. Then, without a word, he straightened and walked out, locking the door behind him. The click of the lock was a thunderclap in the silence that followed. Lucia closed her eyes, inhaling deeply through her nose. She needed to stay calm, to think clearly. Panicking wouldn't help them. She shifted her wrists again, testing the ropes. They were tight, but she could feel the faintest bit of give. Slowly, methodically, she twisted her hands, her fingers fumbling to find a weak spot. The rough fibers scraped against her skin, each movement sending sharp stabs of pain shooting up her arms. "Come on," she muttered through gritted teeth. Sweat dripped down her temples, her focus unwavering. After what felt like an eternity, the ropes loosened just enough. With a final tug, her hands came free. "Yes," she whispered triumphantly, rubbing her sore wrists. She crawled over to Isabela, her movements quick but careful. "Isa," she said, shaking her shoulder gently. "Isa, wake up. Come on, we have to go." Isabela groaned softly, her eyelids fluttering open. Her gaze was unfocused, her expression groggy. "Lucia? What's going on?" "We've been drugged," Lucia explained, her tone urgent. "That bastard Javier tied us up. We have to get out of here." Isabela's eyes widened as the reality of their situation sank in. She struggled to sit up, her movements sluggish and uncoordinated. "Where are we?" "I don't know," Lucia admitted, glancing around the room. It was small and bare, the walls a dull beige. A single window was covered with thick curtains, and a faint antiseptic smell lingered in the air. "We don't have time to figure it out," Lucia said firmly. "Help me look for something we can use to escape." They began searching the room, checking every corner for anything that might help. A sharp object, a loose panel, anything. Their efforts were cut short by the sound of the lock turning. Lucia whipped around just as Javier stepped inside. He leaned against the door, his expression calm but cold. "Going somewhere?" he asked, his tone mocking. Lucia stepped in front of Isabela, her body tense. "Let us go," she demanded, her voice steady, despite the fear bubbling beneath the surface. Javier smirked, shaking his head slowly. "You're not going anywhere." "Why are you doing this?" Isabela's voice was shaky, her fear evident. Javier's smirk faded, replaced by a look of calculated menace. "Because I need you," he said simply. "Both of you." He stepped closer, his eyes locking onto Lucia's. "You want to survive? You work for me. It's that simple." Lucia's fists clenched at her sides. "And if we refuse?" Javier's smile widened, but it held no warmth. "Then you die." The weight of his words was suffocating. Isabela clutched Lucia's arm, her hand trembling. Lucia's mind raced, her expression cold and unreadable. She wouldn't let him see her fear. "What do you want us to do?" she asked finally, her voice steady. Javier seemed pleased with her response. "That's better. I'll explain everything. Soon. For now, get some rest. You'll need it." He turned and left, locking the door behind him once more. Lucia stood motionless for a moment, her thoughts swirling. Then she turned to Isabela, her voice a whisper, filled with steel. "We're getting out of this, Isa. I don't care how, but we're getting out." Isabela nodded, her fear giving way to a flicker of determination.